Everybody, well today I'm going to try and cover some questions and come up with some answers about the 54R improved. I've been having a lot of questions about it, so try and get people up to speed, and if you want to monkey with it, give you details on what I've learned you can do to make it work. Okay, so first things first, what's the difference between 54R and 54R improved? Here is a couple cases. This one being obviously the standard 54R, and this is 54R improved. So you can see it's a fatter case, removing most of the taper out of the old case, moving the shoulder forward, increasing the angle of the shoulder to 40 degrees. And that's basically it. Everything basically from this point forward is all of the same factory working dimensions of a standard 54R, and then everything basically from here rearward is the same working dimensions as a standard 54R. We've basically only changed the center 80% of the case to a whole different dimension. That's it. So your throat and all that stuff, factory dimensions work, and of course your rim head spacing dimensions, they must remain the same. To make the visual a little bit easier, I've got an old M44 barrel here that I've sectioned. So basically we can see, and this is a fired case that has not been full length sized. In fact, yeah, okay, it's been reloaded, so it's been neck sized, but it's not been full length sized. So if we pushed it on here, pushed it up into the chamber, that's as far as it'll go without adding a little bit more pressure. So just as a side note, this is a good example of what full length sizing will allow. It'll shrink that case body down even more so that it would fill the rest of that gap right there. So, and you bolt action guys are probably only concerned with neck sizing anyways. So there's another look. In fact, this case has been crammed in here a few times already, so it probably would normally be stopping about there. But this is a factory 54R case, just has not been full length sized. I'm not sure what I got here. Yeah, okay. This one's not even been fired. Just a standard Lapua case. Goes right in. And you can actually, I don't know if it can show up on the camera, but you can see a lot more gap around it than a fired case. So that's the difference. That kind of helps illustrate why a lot of people only neck size. You get a more snug, precise fit of more of the case. Now here's the improved case. We'll get back on subject here, or on topic. And that's it. That's as far as it'll fit into a factory chamber. So you cannot load this into a factory chamber. You would have to get a reamer. You'd have to get the reamer that matches these dimensions. Basically imagine this cartridge being the reamer. That's how much material it would be cutting off or removing out of the chamber. Basically widening this area here, and then taking the shoulder and moving it forward. Really not a whole lot of material. Now your reamers come set up to also cut this surface here, but you do not want to cut this surface at all. when doing this, because that is where your cartridge head spaces, the rim on in contact with this surface. You want to stop before changing those dimensions, otherwise you change your headspace and your gun becomes potentially unsafe to fire. So it's obviously recommended that you have a certified gunsmith do this portion of the job for you. That way everything is cut right on the money and there's no safety concerns. Alright, so how did I get this brass? How did I fireform this brass? Well, I took factory brass and fired it in the new chamber, and your spent brass will come out being shaped like this, called fireforming. There's a lot of resources out there, books, websites that cover fireforming and loading your fireformed cartridges and loading cartridges in order to fireform. I recommend this book here by Ken Howell, but there's many other. Ackley has several books which I have yet to get a hold of. I fired factory PPU ammunition out of the improved chamber, and about 80% plus were coming out good. The ones that fail would have a small little crack in the shoulder. Basically the brass was just a bit too hard to work that far. Here's one, it's easier to see. Little crack in the brass. Okay, so now I've got a cut chamber, I've got the improved chamber made, I fired some brass, and I have some spent brass now. Now I need to size it. Now, like I said earlier, we have not changed any of the working dimensions from here forward and from here rearward as far as this cartridge and the rifle is concerned. We've only changed basically the center 80% of the cartridge. So that applies to going through these dies and see what we can come up with to make this work for reloading. We're going to assume that you're only going to want a neck size. I don't know anybody that's going to try this in a semi-auto. If you do, that would be pretty cool, and let me know how it goes. Obviously you want a full length size for that, but we're just going to be concerned with neck sizing right now. And here's what I've learned works and doesn't work, and then what you have to modify to make it work. This is an RCBS neck sizing die, 54R standard stock unmodified, and you can see a stock case fits in there perfectly fine. The 54R improved only fits about halfway in there. This would require modification to make it work. A Lee full-length sizing die. The improved cartridge doesn't even fit halfway in there. This would require modification as well. The Lyman neck sizing die, it also required modification, and so I modified it. So what I did is chuck this up in the lathe, and I bored basically the old case taper out of the inside of this so that this would fit in there. Now this is a fired case and the neck needs size, so I can't shove it in there freehand, but it normally would fit in there just fine. I bored it out and then polished the chamfer area, transition into the neck sizing area with valve grinding compound and Flitz metal polish, and I only foobarred one case in my attempt to make this work, so I was pretty happy with that. It was a Lapua case, but that's okay. You got to break some eggs, you know. So in summary, you will have to modify a die to size these, but it can be done fairly easy. I am certainly not a machinist, and I managed to get one done. So now I got my cases sized, neck sized. I need to seat bullets. I need to seat some bullets. So now the Lyman bullet seating die, this came with my neck sizing die. The improved case only fits halfway. Of course, your standard 54R case fits in there perfectly fine. Goes all the way up and hits the crimp. But the 54R improved only goes halfway in. This would require modification to make it work. Forster 54R bullet seating die. Of course, standard 54R cartridge fits in it just fine. Improved only fits halfway. This would require modification. That's kind of a bitch because I really liked using this. Lee bullet seating die 762 by 54R-H0. Of course, a standard 54R case fits in there, and the improved fits in there. It's hidden the case crimping lip in there right now, otherwise it would go all the way in. But so your Lee bullet seating die 54R-H0 works with no modification. Now there's a trade-off. That means there's some slop in there. That means this is oversized so that we can now fit our fatter 54R case in there. And so that might cause some concern with concentricity issues and accuracy issues. I haven't seen a whole lot of trouble with it, so I've been going with this so far. But really, I haven't been grouping. I've just been going after velocities. The alternative to all of this is go to this web page. This is a screenshot of Lee's website where they make custom dies, and you can have a set of these custom made, and solves basically all this headache. Now, I'm going to have a set made. I'm going to do it here probably within the next week, and I think the plus side on that would be for anybody else who wants a set, I think Lee should be able to make them. They would already be on file, so they should be able to make duplicates. I don't know, without you having to come up with spent brass to send them, to have them make the dies for you. After I get these ordered, they should already be on file, but I don't know how that works. Hopefully that is the case, though. Another important side note, if you were to cut your chamber to the improved dimension, you could no longer shoot steel cased surplus ammo in your gun, because the steel will not form like brass, being softer, and you will get blowouts. And I knew it was going to fail. I just wanted to see exactly how it was going to fail, just for fun, is the end of the day, and wanted to have been curious about what this was going to do. And there was no gas blowback or anything. The case sealed, looks like approximately right there. You can see the difference that it had to travel, the amount of distance that steel had to go to try to reach that. Got pretty close. So keep that in mind. Steel case is a no-no if you do this. Another good point to mention here is reload data. Anytime you do a wildcat or fireform to a custom shaped cartridge, you've changed one thing, the case capacity, and sometimes in other cases you're necking up or down, so you're changing the bullet. But in this case, we're not changing the projectiles, just case capacity. So you have to come up with reloading data from scratch, more or less. So that's another aspect of responsibility to doing this type of project. So if you'd like to follow along or join us, just go to either one of these links and sign up. And thanks for watching.